What are the most criminally underrated albums in classic rock history? Well, we asked our writers, and here are the 7 records they came up with. We'll go chronologically, starting with The Who's first concept album. Although it was soon overshadowed by larger-scaled works such as Tommy and Quadrophenia, 1967's The Who's Sell Out is quite possibly the full realization of Pete Townshend's ambitions. Structured to sound like a radio broadcast, the album gave the band their biggest US single ever with I Can See for Miles. But more importantly, it stands apart from their other masterpieces thanks to the sense of humor that runs throughout the record. From the cover photo of Roger Daltrey submerged in a tub of beans, to songs like Marianne with a Shaky Hand and Tattoo, The Who would never be so wonderfully silly again, as Townshend instead began to address more serious issues with his songwriting. Next up, Blue Cheer's 1968 groundbreaking opus Vincebus Eruptum. It's hard to think of another album that contributed so much to the genre and got so little recognition in return. The Stooges and the MC5 are more frequently celebrated for capturing the primal power of rock and roll at its most savage and uninhibited, and yet, this seminal and seismic work preceded both of their debuts by at least a year. Presence, Led Zeppelin's underappreciated 1976 album, found them returning to their earliest blues-focused influences after a period of titanic creativity. It's understandable that this record has been obscured over time, considering the layered brilliance of landmarks such as its predecessor, Physical Graffiti. But by the time they crafted Presence, Led Zeppelin had taken on a striking versatility. They sounded almost nothing like the legends they'd once so blatantly emulated. Never has the blues moved between such thundering revelation and such nimble asides. Presence is the sound of a band that had learned something about where they'd come from, and were intent now on taking it to someplace entirely new. Little Feat were probably always doomed to cult status by the very things that made them special: an abundance of musical talent, a subversive sense of humor, and a propensity for self-destruction. The group maintained a steady audience partly by virtue of their dogged touring schedule, and you can hear the result of all those miles on 1978's Waiting for Columbus, which travels from rawer early efforts like Willin', Dixie Chicken, and Fat Man in a Bathtub into the progressively smoother sound of later LPs, including the fusion-laced Time Loves a Hero. It's an unwieldy blend, but one expertly distilled by the group's rock-solid playing and the sharp tang of Lowell George's socket wrench slide. After the massive success of Rumors, Fleetwood Mac could pretty much do anything they wanted, and they did on 1979's Tusk. They gave Lindsey Buckingham total control over the sessions, and made a sprawling, million-dollar, double-album masterpiece that could never, ever live up to its predecessor. But judged on its own terms, Tusk is a weird, personal, and brilliant unraveling of one of the era's biggest and best groups. Like the Beatles' White Album, Tusk basically positions Fleetwood Mac's 3 singer-songwriters, Buckingham, Christine McVie, and Stevie Nicks, as a trio of solo artists with the other band members serving as their backing group. As a bonus, it established Buckingham as one of the brightest stars of the period, a mad perfectionist who used Brian Wilson's intricately arranged Beach Boys records as his template. The late 80s rebirth of Aerosmith was a supremely welcome surprise. But some of us are still wondering why 1985's gloriously raw Done With Mirrors couldn't have been the album to bring them back to the promised land, instead of the comparatively over-polished Permanent Vacation. It's not like we've got anything against poppy, Desmond Child-assisted hits like Dude Looks Like a Lady or Angel, specifically. But if the band's comeback had instead been built on leaner, meaner Done With Mirrors tracks like Shame on You and The Hop, we might have been able to avoid future missteps such as Falling in Love is Hard on the Knees and Just Push Play. Covers records are rarely essential parts of a band's catalog. They're often seen as contract fulfillers or considered the work of musicians out of original ideas. But the best covers albums can be a way for established stars to let loose, honor their inspirations, and get back to their bar band roots. That's certainly the case with Def Leppard's Yeah, a raucous, loose collection from 2006 that lovingly highlights the band's varied influences. You can tell they're having a blast putting their own spin on their favorite songs from David Bowie, The Kinks, and Thin Lizzy. What stands out most on Yeah is that Def Leppard are first and foremost huge music fans who have never lost their love of a good hook or for timeless songcraft. That's it for today. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube page to see more great videos. Like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, and check out more of the best in classic rock coverage on ultimateclassicrock.com.